What if I told you that loving a man who doesn't love you back is a lot more common than you think? What if I also told you that could be you right now or in the near future if you don't truly understand what fake love looks like from a man? Now, if you want to understand, then join me on today's show where we'll be discussing 5 signs he's pretending to fall in love with you. That way, you don't end up only realizing his true feelings after it's already too late. You start to think to yourself that the way men are falling in love with you, right, is by seeing you visually. So they fall in love with your physical presence. The way you look, your yitties, your dump truck, right? We can draw you a nice little booty here as well. See, when a man is truly falling in love with you, he's not falling in love with anything of the physical, because as time goes on, things will change. You're not going to look exactly the same as you did when you were 21. What ends up happening is he falls in love with these traits, right? The fact that you're kind, the fact that you're smart, the fact that you're giving, the fact that you're nurturing, your spirit, right? This is what he actually ends up falling in love with. All of these traits, these things that you can't actually see or touch, you just feel them in your heart. Now, I know this sounds really spiritual and things like that, but the reason I'm saying this is because since these are the traits that men actually fall in love with and not what's of the physical, then what you should do when you're actually gauging how much a guy really feels for you and how serious his feelings are for you is you should be understanding, does he actually recognize the qualities, intangible qualities, that he actually has fallen in love with? Because if he can recognize that and then communicate those qualities to me, then I can actually be sure that his love for me is real. On the other side of the spectrum, if a guy is unable to communicate any of the intangible qualities that he loves about you, then he doesn't actually love you. Like you, the person, you, the spirit, you, the soul. He might love what's on the exterior. He might love the way you look. He might love your BBL diaper booty, but he doesn't actually love you. Because the reality of it is there will always be another girl who's also pretty, who also has a BBL or a big dump truck or whatever the case may be. And the reason I'm saying that is because if that's what he's basing his love for you off of, that's not real love. Because as time goes on, all of that's going to fade, and so will his love and care for you. So what do I want you to do in order to actually identify in the men that you're dating whether or not this is the case or this is the case? This is the key question that I love for all of you to ask, and you can write this down if you've never heard this question before, okay? This question that I want you to ask men when you are spending a lot of time with them and they're telling you how much they love you, I want you to ask them, okay, since I hear you say all the time that you love me, you love me, you love me, that's great. Tell me though, what qualities and character traits, specifically and unique to me, do you love about me? And I want you, after you ask that question, you just sit back, relax, and you allow him to give you his answer. Don't prompt him. Don't give him examples. Don't try and help him out on the test or anything like that. You just say, I just want you to answer it as honestly as you can and as you feel necessary. Don't guide him in any particular direction, nothing. Because what I want you to see for yourself when you ask this question, right? This is a very deep question. So this isn't something that you just ask casually when you guys are in bed watching Netflix, right? This is like when you're having a real deep heart-to-heart conversation. This is when you ask this question. Now, what I want you to be paying attention to when you ask this question is, what is his response? Is his response to you when you ask this question to say something like, oh, well, I love that you're so beautiful, and I love that you're so voluptuous, and I love the way you look in a tight pair of jeans or a red dress. That's what I love it. And you start thinking to yourself, wait. I'm remembering back to what Tomisin told me to be paying attention to in his answers, and the fact that a man will be in love with your intangible qualities, not what's on the external. But everything you just mentioned to me about what you love, now you're not actually going to say that, but I want you analyzing this. Everything that you just mentioned to me about what you love about me is on the external. Anyone can wear a red dress. Anyone can be voluptuous. That's not necessarily unique to me. And that has nothing to do with my soul or my spirit. I know I'm making this sound very spiritual, but you have to think of love as a spiritual experience. And if you're not considering that love is a spiritual experience, then it won't make sense to you why I'm telling you to pay attention to this answer. Okay? Because if he actually is truly falling in love with you or already is in love with you, then his answer will be all of these types of things. These intangible things about you and your soul and your spirit and the person that you are. Not only will he be able to give you this answer as it relates to your intangible qualities, he'll also be able to give you direct examples of times in which he's experienced that. So let me tell you the difference between, I just gave you an example of a bad answer. Now let me give you an example of a good answer, right? Let's say he says, you know what? I love the way that you take care of other people. Me included, yes, but also other people in general. Because you're so generous and nurturing that you lift people up and you know how to bring someone's spirit up. And I've seen that not only in our relationship, but I've also seen that in the way that you, go about your family life. And what you did for your sister last week. Remember when your sister was feeling really down and you went to her and you brought her this really special, birthday gift, even though her birthday was already over, because you knew how she was really sad about not being able to spend her birthday with her boyfriend, right? Guys who are actually falling for you, not only will they be able to give you this answer, right, with ease, but they'll also be able to give you examples of this answer with ease, because they're recognizing and observing you and analyzing you, and as they're analyzing you, they're observing the things that they love about you. Because even though men might not be as emotionally intelligent as you may be, they're still capable of communicating the ways that they will fall in love with your character. And if he can't, it's most likely because he hasn't fallen in love with your character. He may have fallen in love with your exterior or the way that you look or the way that you suck him off, but he hasn't fallen in love with you, the person, but that's a problem. Let's imagine that this is a game of whack-a-mole, okay? And in whack-a-mole, you have all of these different circles and an animal comes out of each one of these different circles, okay? Now, at any one time in a good relationship, you will always have different things that need to be addressed, okay? So whether it be, let's say at one time it's desire, let's say at one time it's communication, I'll just put talk here. So the reason I say this is that at each point, as you build a successful and hopefully sustainable relationship with a man, there will always be a new challenge ahead, okay? I never want you to think about your relationships as if there's something where, Tomisin's teaching me a couple of tips and tricks. I'm just going to use some of these tips and tricks for a couple of months, and then hopefully my relationship will be so good that I stop having to put any work or investment into it. Relationships and successful relationships don't work like that. You're putting investment into your relationship on an ongoing basis. And as things change, people change, things change around the both of you. There will be different focuses on your relationship at each period of your relationship. Now, why am I addressing this here? And why am I giving you the example of whack-a-mole? Because in whack-a-mole, at each different point in time, you're going to kind of whack each thing back down and take care of it whenever it pops up. And that's how you have a successful relationship, but in a more emotional sense. Each time one of these things pops back up. Someone said the spelling police. Which thing did I spell wrong? So each one of these points, you're going to be whacking off each one of these challenges that are going to present themselves. Now, how does this relate to a way a man will pretend to love you? Okay? When he is pretending to love you, one thing you're going to notice, and this is where it's going to become painful for some of you because you're going to realize something. See, when men don't really love you, the process of working through problems like this, even if they're not necessarily problems in the relationship, just working through challenges, he will always feel like he has little to no energy to address challenges. Because his expectation when he really doesn't love you and he really finds it painful to invest in you is that the entire relationship should just be peace and should have no issues ever. And anytime something comes up, whether it be not your issue, just an issue in general, or a challenge that both of you must face, he is always constantly exhausted to the point where he has no energy to do anything that is challenging in the relationship. Not that you're even presenting to him purposely challenges because you want to make it interesting or anything like that. He just finds it painful to do anything that's not sit, shut up, not talk, and just be boring, okay? And not have any issues or not have any life problems and not talk or address anything. See, when men don't really love you and they're pretending to love you, addressing things becomes extraordinarily painful. When you have to pull teeth to address even minor issues or anything that's not just sucking and effing, okay? Or eating and sleeping, you have a problem on your hands. And that problem is your man probably doesn't love you how you think he does. Because what I want you to understand is when a man actually loves you, truthfully, he also wants to take your happiness into account. He cares about your happiness. He cares about how you feel. He cares about how things affect you. And when you communicate that you're upset, you're sad, things are making you feel away, you might be grieving, whatever the case may be, he actually has a desire to solve your problem. He has a desire to make things better. He wants, keyword wants, to address problems and challenges and issues in the relationship because he understands in addressing those things, right? It's like playing whack-a-mole. You can continue to have a good relationship when he continues to address those things. Of course, you're playing your own role as well. It's not just a one-sided street. But there has to be a desire, especially from your man who is meant to be leading, to address those issues. And they're never going to stop being a plethora of issues. Unfortunately, in life, it is a roller coaster. So there's never going to be a perfect point where there's never anything wrong. There's always going to be a new thing that rears its ugly head. And it doesn't always have to necessarily be a challenge in your relationship or you two fighting against each other. It can just be a challenge in general. But men who really don't love you or care about you, they're always exhausted to deal with any sort of challenge. The way that you love as a woman and the way that men will love you as a man is two different types of love. It doesn't mean that the love is not real. I just want you to understand the way that men understand how to express love is different from you. Men are very, very, very good at expressing their love through action for you and taking action for you. You might not even get, all the words and expression through sentences and how he feels about you and writing you poems. And that man can be deeply in love with you and show you all of that love by the way he takes action for you. Tell me in the chat, have you ever seen, whether it be in a movie or seen it in real life, those old couples where it's like that old couple will be like, let's say they get up early in the morning and the old man who rarely ever talks and he rarely ever says anything super like romantic or anything like that. He'll always get up at 7 a.m. and he knows his wife gets up at 8 a.m. I'm just giving you a random example, but you can kind of build the idea or the image in your mind. And he'll get up at 7 a.m. He'll come downstairs. He'll make his wife a cup of coffee the exact way he knows that she likes it, because he knows when she wakes up at 8 a.m., the first thing she wants to do is drink coffee. So he makes it for her. That way it's ready every time she comes downstairs. And he does that steady every single day. Right? Are you picturing a type of couple like that in your mind, right? And the thing about it is, see, those men, even sometimes, they're not very good at saying all the time, oh, I love my wife so much. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. She's so amazing. I wouldn't know what I would do without her. But they're good at taking action for their woman. And even sometimes you might notice if you have any older grandparents, right? You might have a granddad that does that for you. He might not necessarily tell you all the time that he loves you, but every time he's always taking some small or little action for you to kind of show you his appreciation for you without you even necessarily having to ask for anything, right? And so a lot of men, they're good at that. They know how to connect their feelings to taking action for you. I want you to take notice of this difference here. See, when a man doesn't really love you, his thoughts will be more like this. What do I need? All the time, especially when you're not around. Because the easiest thing to do when you're with someone, right, is only care about their needs or their thoughts or what's important to them when you're around them. The hardest thing to do, because it means you really care about the person and you're really becoming more selfless in your growth as a man, is to care about another woman even when she's not around. and to be thinking about her needs, what's important to her, and her happiness when she's not even presently with you, in a way that turns you into someone who is living to serve another human being. I know it sounds weird when I'm saying service, right? But I don't mean service as in worshiping your feet or kissing your feet. I mean service as in, hey, as a husband, as a leader, the man of the family, I want to figure out how I can continue to take care of my woman. So even when she's not here to tell me her needs or what she wants or what's important to her, I'm always factoring that in my decisions, right? So what's an example of what does my woman need, right? Let's say this guy is at the store, and you've been talking about how you really want to start baking all your food, right? You want to get into baking more. It's been a passion of yours. You want to eat a little bit healthier, but you do like your sweet treats, so you want to bake them at home. And he's gone to Home Depot to get himself some tools because he's been working in the shed. And as he's at Home Depot, he sees a couple of trays and cupcake trays and mixers and bowls and things like that at the store. And he's thinking to himself, oh, my wife is mentioning how she really wants to start baking and things like that. She hasn't gone to the store and gotten all the stuff that she needs, but let me go and get her some of these dishes, pots, pans, and utensils and tools that she can use to do all of her baking. And then he comes back with the tools and he says, oh, I got you some of this stuff. I know you were mentioning how you wanted to do baking. So I wanted to get you this stuff so that you will be able to do that better, because I think that this would be easier to mix with. And I know there wasn't any whisk in there, and there's a larger tray that you can put your stuff in and things like that. And, these are some of the small ways that, hey, even though you're not here, even though you're not present to say, I want this, can you get me this? Can you do this for me? Right? He's thinking, oh, my wife needs this. This is what makes her happy. This is what's important to her. I'm factoring in what's important to her even at when she's not around, even at times where she's not present to speak up for herself or tell me what she might need or want. Because I will assure you, the number one thing on a man's mind when he loves a woman is her happiness. With men, a lot of times when they don't actually have strong feelings for you, they will actually encourage and allow you to lead the relationship. When you like a guy and you really want this situation to work out, and you want it to work out really badly, and you're starting to notice that he's having a lot of actions and withdrawal that is making it seem like, this relationship might fizzle out. This might not work out the way that you wanted it to work out. Your anxiety starts doing something to you where you start feeling like, okay, maybe if I put in more effort, I will save our relationship from dying. And because you really, really want to make sure that this doesn't get wasted, and a lot of times by the time you sleep with him, you really want to make sure you don't waste a body, now you're really pushing to make sure that this relationship can be saved if you just do your absolute best. The problem is, though, you then take the lead and you take the wheel, so to speak. You are in the driver's seat, right? So we'll put a little bit of an arrow here. And that is a very, very, very big problem. Because if you're the one in the driver's seat leading the relationship and he is comfortable being in that position, that should tell you that he don't have no real strong feelings for you like you're imagining he does. And the reason I'm saying this is because I know, and I love all of you so much, and I help so many hundreds of you, that I have seen this happen even with men that you're not dating. Because once you get into this position where you're taking the lead, see, some men are, because they're such opportunists, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Tomisin, if that guy doesn't really like me, why doesn't he just tell me that? Why is he wasting my time? And why is he even bothering to spend time with me if the whole time he doesn't like me? The answer to that is because it's easy. And when I say easy, I mean when you ask him to hang out, when you do all the planning, when you're paying for the dates for some of you, when you're doing all the work to keep the relationship going and to keep it working, right? And stop it from dying. All he has to say is, yeah, sure. You said you wanted to hang out, so sure, we'll hang out. You said you wanted to go do this, so sure, we'll go do this. You texted me, so sure, I'll text you back. You called me, so sure, I'll call you back. And after a while, that becomes the only way you're able to see him, spend time with him, and you're able to progress the relationship forward is by being in the driver's seat. But anytime a man is allowing you to lead, It's not because he thinks you're such a great leader. And it's not because he thinks you're, really assertive and you know what you want. It's because he doesn't have strong enough feelings for you that he would even have a desire to take a lead. If he really wanted you, and I'm talking about genuine desire for you and to be with you, he would not want to wait around at the possibility that you may or may not hang out with each other. You may or may not call each other. You may or may not speak to each other or see each other. He would not take that chance because it's too risky for the fact that he actually wants to make sure he can be with you. This is what the I don't actually love you as much as I'm saying I love you pie chart looks like. You'll notice a theme with men who are pretending to love you, that they are always trying to shave off the amount of time they spend with you. And it almost becomes like a burden to spend any time with you that is not getting sucked off or getting your big booty smacked all over him. If that's not what's happening, then it becomes very painful for him to want to spend that time with you doing anything. The thing that I want you to be paying attention to in the way that men will talk to you and talk about your relationship when they're not actually in love with you, they will always talk as if any time spent with you just chilling or relaxing is like a waste of time or taking away from the things that he could be doing. So what's an example of what that looks like? So for example, right, if you say, oh, babe, I want to really just, lay with you and watch a movie. And then his response is, why the hell are we watching a movie? There's no points that, it's just wasting time. I could be doing this, I could be doing that, I could be hanging out with friends. We're just going to lay and watch a movie. That's so pointless, right? The point of it is for you guys to spend some quality time. The point of it is that he invests some of his time and energy and attention into you. But see, when you have a man who doesn't actually love you, this is painful. This is like pulling teeth. When a man doesn't actually love you, he wants to cut and slice this pie as thin as it can possibly be. And I want you to take notice of that when you're dating guys and even when you're building long-term serious relationships with guys, because this shouldn't be a painful experience. I'm not saying he should have to want to spend every second of every day with you, but the idea that he would take time out of his day or take time away from his boys or take time away from his video games, right? Because you can also have a pie chart that looks like this for some men. But the reality of it is, in a life, when you love a woman and you actually cherish her, you don't have a problem shaving off some of these things so that you can have more of his time. I'm not saying he will abandon his family and his work and his responsibilities for you, but there will be an understanding that you play an important role in his life and his happiness. Never forget this. When you marry a man, you become his new immediate family, okay? So that should be an understanding in itself. And so when a guy actually wants you truthfully, and he's not just talking about it or love bombing you, he will be the one to start making these adjustments where he's shaving off time from these other things in his life, in his pie chart, and making sure to extend that amount of time for you. And it's good because now he's in the driver's seat, like we talked about in our last point with the lead. But it's also a good place for you to be in because now in your feminine energy, as you're receiving, you can now pace him. Because when a man wants to spend more time with you and you're able to pace him to say, yep, I like spending time with you too, but let's take it a little bit easy. This allows him to be in a constant state of continuing to desire more of you. And you might think to yourself, why would I want him to be slightly anxious and continue to just want me and not get enough? Because when he feels like he's not getting enough, now he takes action on that by continuing to say, I need more of your time. I need more of your time. I want to hang out again. I want to go on another date. I want to spend more time with you. Because I know that this happens to a lot of you. If you're in a place where this guy is trying to shave off time with you to make room for all the other things in his life, then the feelings that you thought were once strong, I have to tell you the truth, are not as strong as you were once imagining.